In a quiet revolution transforming the very foundations of African commerce, businesses across the continent are conducting trade without a single US dollar changing hands. From bustling markets in Lagos to copper mines in Zambia, a new financial reality is taking shape that promises to reshape how Africa does business with itself and the world. The transformation centers around the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, known as PAPSS, which has grown from an ambitious experiment to a continental game-changer in just 3 years. What began in January 2022 with merely 10 participating banks has exploded into a network spanning 15 countries and connecting over 150 commercial institutions across Africa. The numbers tell a remarkable story of financial liberation. Under the traditional system that has dominated African trade for decades, a simple transaction of $200 million between two African nations could lose between 10 and 30% of its value to conversion fees and correspondent banking charges. These astronomical costs, tied intrinsically to the US dollar's dominance in international trade, have been bleeding billions from the continent's economy annually. But PAPSS has fundamentally altered this equation. Transaction costs have plummeted to approximately 1%, saving an estimated $5 billion each year across the continent. This isn't theoretical savings based on economic projections, but hard data reflecting real transactions taking place right now across African borders. The system operates through 3 integrated platforms that work in harmony to facilitate seamless trade. The instant payment system allows transactions to settle in seconds or minutes rather than the weeks previously required under dollar-dominated correspondent banking networks. The African currency marketplace matches foreign exchange demand and supply across borders in real time, eliminating the lengthy settlement delays that have plagued African trade for generations. Meanwhile, PAPSS Guard provides the security infrastructure, ensuring these rapid transactions remain safe and verifiable. The impact extends far beyond mere cost savings. In Ghana alone, the country's instant payment system processed nearly 313 million transactions worth approximately 629 billion Ghanaian cedis in 2023, demonstrating the voracious appetite for efficient, local, currency-based financial services. This surge in digital payments reflects a broader transformation sweeping across sub-Saharan Africa, where mobile money transactions grew by 20% in volume and 16% in value during 2024, with over $1.68 trillion processed through mobile wallets. The driving force behind this revolution isn't political ideology, but economic necessity. As PAPSS Chief Executive Mike Ogbalu explains, the goal isn't de-dollarization as a political statement, but rather the practical removal of barriers caused by scarce third-party global currencies. With transport costs already inflating African trade by 50% above global averages, the additional burden of foreign exchange barriers has been suffocating intra-continental commerce. This pragmatic approach aligns perfectly with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement's vision of strengthening regional value chains and accelerating economic integration. Currently, 84% of Africa's trade flows outside the continent, a statistic that PAPSS and similar initiatives aim to dramatically reverse by making intra-African trade more attractive and profitable. The transformation is being powered by Africa's remarkable embrace of digital financial services. Mobile money networks have exploded across the continent, with merchant payments growing by 21% and international remittances reaching $34 billion, with volumes growing fastest at 28% in 2023. This digital foundation provides the infrastructure necessary for PAPSS to flourish, creating a synergy between grassroots financial innovation and continental payment systems. Countries across Africa are building complementary systems that reinforce this trend. Nigeria launched its Domestic Africa Card Scheme in January 2023, reaching over 3 million cards by March 2024. Ghana is piloting its eCedai digital currency aimed at closing the digital inclusion gap, while various nations experiment with central bank digital currencies and instant payment platforms. The interoperability of these systems creates powerful possibilities. A farmer in Zambia can now accept mobile money or digital currency payments and clear transactions directly with Kenyan suppliers through PAPSS, completely bypassing traditional dollar-denominated trade routes. This represents a fundamental shift from dependence to self-sufficiency in African financial infrastructure. However, this financial independence movement isn't occurring in a geopolitical vacuum. The timing coincides with renewed tensions over dollar dominance as various global powers, including China, Russia, and BRICS members, explore alternative payment systems. President Donald Trump has made clear his intention to defend dollar supremacy aggressively, threatening retaliatory tariffs of up to 100% on nations that back alternative currencies. Trump's warnings have been explicit and pointed. He has stated that countries seeking to move away from dollar dependency would have to say hello to tariffs and goodbye to America. During the 2025 BRICS summit, he signaled possible 10% tariffs on nations reducing their dollar dependence, creating uncertainty for governments that could face political and economic risks from trade retaliation. Yet Africa's response has been notably steadfast. Rather than retreating in the face of these threats, African leaders are doubling down on their commitment to financial sovereignty. They're actively communicating through G20 dialogues and working with development partners like the International Finance Corporation to demonstrate that their initiatives are homegrown, pragmatic responses to economic challenges rather than ideological positioning against American interests. The International Finance Corporation has begun offering loans to businesses denominated in local currencies, helping to ease currency mismatches for firms that don't earn dollars. This support from global development institutions provides crucial validation for Africa's approach and helps insulate the continent from potential political backlash. South Africa's central bank governor Lesetja Kganyago told G20 finance meetings in Cape Town that instant local payments represent a structural necessity to uplift Africa's economic fabric. This institutional support from respected financial authorities helps legitimize the continent's payment revolution and provides diplomatic cover against potential criticism. The mobile money revolution underpinning this transformation continues to accelerate at breathtaking speed. Person-to-person, merchant and cross-border use cases are driving mass adoption as digital wallets transition from novelty to necessity across the continent. Young entrepreneurs, fintech companies and progressive central banks are collaborating to build an ecosystem that can thrive independently and efficiently. The growth isn't limited to basic payment processing. Digital services are converging and maturing into a genuine continental payments network with remarkable interoperability. Companies like Safaricom's M-Pesa now operate across more than 10 countries, while community-based digital currencies demonstrate grassroots adaptability and local innovation. Looking ahead, the challenges remain significant. PAPSS still faces adoption constraints, with intercontinental trade remaining fragmented and incomplete data on transaction volumes. Foreign exchange liquidity gaps persist, and many banks require enhanced technical capabilities to fully utilize the new systems. The digital divide continues to create obstacles, with uneven power supply, limited rural connectivity, and financial literacy shortfalls potentially stalling progress in some regions. However, partnerships are scaling rapidly across public and private sectors. The G20 continues supporting inclusive financial systems, while domestic fintech ecosystems prove their adaptability and resilience. As PAPSS builds out its foreign exchange marketplace and global institutions test integrations, external interest from Europe to Asia continues growing, suggesting potential for expansion beyond African borders. External interest from non-African institutions is particularly noteworthy, as it demonstrates that the cost savings and efficiency gains aren't limited to intra-African trade, but could reshape broader international commerce. This growing attention suggests that what began as a regional solution to local problems could evolve into a genuine alternative to traditional dollar-dominated settlement systems. The implications extend far beyond Africa's borders. If the continent can sustain its current momentum, overcome remaining infrastructure gaps, and navigate potential geopolitical crossfires, This could develop into a significant global non-dollar settlement contender. This doesn't necessarily mean abandoning the dollar entirely, but rather creating layers of choice and resilience in the international financial system. For African businesses, traders, and everyday consumers, these changes could prove transformative. Lower transaction costs mean more capital available for reinvestment, better competitive pricing, and improved access to regional markets. The ability to trade in local currencies reduces exposure to dollar volatility and eliminates dependency on correspondent banking relationships that have historically disadvantaged African businesses. As the continent scripts its own financial future, the world watches with growing interest and concern. Africa is no longer content to play defense in global financial markets, but is actively reshaping the rules of engagement. Whether this represents the beginning of a new monetary revolution or simply a regional hedge against dollar dominance, one conclusion is unmistakable. The financial landscape is changing, and Africa is leading that change. The revolution in African payments infrastructure represents more than technological innovation or economic efficiency. It embodies a fundamental shift toward financial sovereignty and self-determination that could influence global settlement flows for generations to come. As Trump-era policies loom once again, Africa isn't waiting to be cornered, but is proactively laying groundwork for financial independence and a stronger bargaining position on the world stage.